An alien woman's obsession, she followed me, and desired more than I knew. The Watcher in the crimson mist. The crimson mists of Nereus 7 swirled around Tarek Lauren's outpost as he adjusted the atmospheric filters. 3 years of solitude had taught him to find comfort in the routine maintenance of his small habitation. Dome, a far cry from his former life as a celebrated terraforming engineer for the Interstellar Coalition. Systems nominal, murmured Tarek, brushing back dark hair streaked with premature silver. Another thrilling day in paradise. The first sensation came that evening, a peculiar awareness of being observed. Not the familiar feeling of the planet's indigenous scavengers prowling near the perimeter, but something more deliberate, more intelligent. For 3 nights, Tarek caught glimpses of a silhouette in the swirling crimson fog that blanketed the valley. On the 4th night, he left the safety of his dome, pulse rifle in hand, determined to confront whatever or whoever was watching him. "I know you're there," he called into the mist. "Show yourself or leave me be." The fog parted like a curtain, revealing a figure that made Tarek's breath catch. She stood tall and lithe, her skin a luminous purple that seemed to shimmer with inner light. Large, iridescent eyes studied him with unmistakable curiosity. Not human, certainly, but humanoid in form. Her features were delicate, almost ethereal, framed by tendrils of what appeared to be living silver that floated around her head like a crown. "You're afraid," she said, her voice bypassing his ears entirely and resonating directly in his mind. But also, relieved? Tarek lowered his weapon. "You're Zephyri." He'd heard stories about the reclusive, telepathic species from the neighboring system. Beings who could read emotions like humans read facial expressions. Contact with them was rare. Interaction strictly forbidden by both their laws and human diplomatic protocols. "I am Lyra Nix," she replied, taking a cautious step closer. "Your solitude calls across the void. It sings to me. You've been watching me for days. Why?" Lyra's head tilted, the silver tendrils around her face flowing like underwater plants in a gentle current. "Your emotional frequency is unique. Different from others of your kind I have observed from afar." "My emotional frequency?" Tarek felt a mixture of fascination and unease. "Your loneliness has patterns I have never encountered," she explained, extending one slender hand with 5 graceful fingers toward him. "May I?" Something in her expression, an openness, a vulnerability that transcended species, made Tarek nod against his better judgment. When her fingertips touched his temple, images flooded his mind. Crystalline cities suspended in violet clouds, beings communicating in bursts of color and sensation, and underneath it all, a profound solitude that mirrored his own. As Lyra withdrew her hand, Tarek realized he was trembling. "You're alone too," he whispered. "Yes," she replied. "Until now." Forbidden frequencies. 3 days after their first encounter, Tarek found Lyra waiting at his doorstep, her purple skin luminescent against the dull metal of his habitat dome. His initial wariness had given way to an undeniable curiosity. "You shouldn't be here," he said, even as he stepped aside to let her enter. "Your people have strict laws about contact with humans." Lyra's silver tendrils swayed with her movement as she stepped inside, her eyes taking in every detail of his sparse living quarters. "The Zephyri Conclave believes humans are emotionally volatile. That prolonged contact could contaminate our collective consciousness. And you disagree?" Tarek asked, watching as she traced a finger along the spines of his physical books, rare artifacts he'd salvaged before his self-imposed exile. "I believe they fear what they don't understand," she replied. "Your species feels with an intensity that frightens my people. But that intensity..." Her voice in his mind softened. "It's beautiful." That evening, they sat before the habitat's viewport, the crimson mists swirling outside like liquid fire. Lyra explained how the Zephyri perceived emotions as frequencies, harmonies that could be read, interpreted, even influenced. "Your grief has a melody," she said, her eyes never leaving his face. "But beneath it lies something else, a resonance that called to me across the distance." What resonance? Tarek asked, painfully aware of how close she sat, her scent reminiscent of night-blooming flowers from Earth. Instead of answering, Lyra reached for his hand. The moment their fingers intertwined, Tarek gasped as sensations cascaded through him. Not images this time, but pure emotion, curiosity, wonder, and something deeper. An ache of recognition that transcended language. "That," she whispered, both in his mind and aloud, "is what I feel when I'm near you." Tarek found himself leaning closer, drawn by an attraction he couldn't explain. Their lips met tentatively at first, then with growing intensity. The kiss deepened, and with it came a flood of shared consciousness. Lyra's memories becoming his emotions becoming hers in a symphony of connection neither had experienced before. When they parted, breathless and dizzy, the silver tendrils around Lyra's face had taken on a faint golden hue. "What just happened?" Tarek asked, his heart racing. Lyra's expression shifted to one of wonder mixed with concern. Something forbidden. A bond beginning to form. She touched her tendrils, examining the golden tint. "This shouldn't be possible between our species." That night, as moonlight filtered through the mists, their bodies found each other with an inevitability that felt written in the stars. Every touch between purple skin and tan was an exchange of sensation, of memory, of self. In the quiet darkness of the habitat dome, two beings from different worlds discovered a language beyond words, their bodies speaking in rhythms of desire and tenderness. Dawn found them entwined, Tarek tracing patterns on Lyra's shoulder as she slept. He had never felt so complete, so understood, yet a shadow of foreboding lingered at the edges of his consciousness. A borrowed premonition from Lyra's mind that their union would not go unnoticed by the Zephyri conclave for long. Hunters of the Void. The warning came at twilight, a sudden spike of dread that jolted Lyra awake from her rest against Tarek's chest. Her silver-gold tendrils quivered, sensing something beyond human perception. "They know," she whispered, her mental voice tight with fear. "The conclave has sent arbiters." Tarek was already moving, gathering emergency supplies. In the week since their bond had begun to form, Lyra had explained enough about her people for him to understand the danger. The Zephyri arbiters, elite telepathic hunters, were dispatched only for the most serious transgressions. "How much time do we have?" he asked, shoving survival gear into a pack. "Hours, perhaps less." Lyra moved with fluid grace, helping him prepare. "Our connection has grown too strong. They sense it like a discordant note in the collective harmony." Tarek paused, looking at her intently. "You knew this might happen." Her iridescent eyes met his, unblinking. "Yes, and I chose you anyway." They fled as night fell, taking Tarek's terrain vehicle into the labyrinthine canyons that cut through Nereus 7's northern hemisphere. The crimson mists provided some cover, but Lyra warned that arbiters could track emotional frequencies regardless of physical barriers. "There's an abandoned mining outpost in the Obsidian Range," Tarek said as they navigated the treacherous terrain. "We might find shelter there." Hours into their journey, with twin moons rising overhead, they stopped to rest in a cave formed by ancient lava flows. As Tarek set up minimal defenses at the entrance, Lyra stood motionless, her head tilted as though listening to distant voices. "3 arbiters," she finally said. "They're still following the resonance trail, but it grows weaker as we move farther from the place our bond began." Tarek approached her, taking her hands in his. In the dim light of their portable lamp, her purple skin glowed with an inner luminescence that seemed brighter than before. "Tell me what happens if they find us." "They'll sever the connection," Lyra replied, her mental voice trembling. "Take me back to be purified. My memories of you would be extracted and destroyed." "I won't let that happen," Tarek vowed, pulling her close. Their embrace turned desperate, fear transforming into need. Clothing was discarded as they sought the solace of skin against skin, purple against tan, finding in physical union a temporary escape from the hunters closing in. Lyra's tendrils wrapped around Tarek's shoulders as they moved together on the rough blanket, their shared pleasure amplified by the telepathic bond between them. In the aftermath, breathless and intertwined, Tarek noticed something remarkable. faint purple patches appearing on his forearm where Lyra's fingers had gripped him most tightly. "Lyra," he whispered, showing her. "What's happening to me?" She examined the discoloration with wonder and alarm. "The transformation. It's beginning already." Her eyes met his, filled with a mixture of awe and fear. "This is why contact is forbidden. When the bond between Zephyri and human grows strong enough, both begin to change. Into what?" Tarek asked. Before she could answer, a telepathic pulse hit them both, cold, clinical, and searingly powerful. Lyra gasped, clutching her head. "They've found us," she whispered. An echoes of Two Worlds' dawn broke over the Obsidian Range as Tarek and Lyra descended into the abandoned mining complex. The facility, carved deep into black volcanic glass, offered temporary refuge from the Arbiter's relentless pursuit. Above them, strange birds with translucent wings circled in the crimson sky, their calls echoing through the canyon. "This way," Tarek urged, guiding Lyra through a partially collapsed entrance. Inside, emergency lights still functioned, casting eerie blue shadows across walls lined with crystalline formations. Lyra paused before one particularly large crystal, her expression transfixed. "These aren't natural," she whispered, both aloud and in Tarek's mind. "They're memory stones, similar to those in Zephyri temples." "The survey records mentioned unusual mineral deposits," Tarek replied, examining the formations more carefully. "But nothing about their psychic properties." "Because humans can't perceive them," Lyra said, placing her purple hand against the crystal's surface. It glowed in response to her touch. "But you might be able to now." Tarek hesitated before placing his palm beside hers. Where days ago he would have felt nothing, now he sensed faint vibrations, emotional imprints left by beings long vanished. The purple patches on his skin had spread, covering most of his forearm, and occasionally he caught whispers of thoughts that weren't his own. "The transformation is accelerating," Lyra said. Her tendrils now streaked with gold that matched the flecks appearing in Tarek's eyes. "We're becoming something neither human nor Zephyri." They ventured deeper into the complex, discovering a central chamber where hundreds of memory crystals converged in a dome-like formation. As they entered, the crystals pulsed with light, responding to their presence. "This is why the conclave forbids contact," Lyra explained, her voice filled with wonder as the chamber reacted to them. "The ancient texts speak of a time when our species were one. The separation was deliberate, to prevent the emergence of beings who could access both human emotion and Zephyri telepathy. They fear what we're becoming," Tarek realized. "With reason," Lyra said softly. "Such beings would possess powers beyond either species alone." That night, nestled in the heart of the crystal chamber, they made love surrounded by the gentle glow of ancient memories. Each touch deepened their transformation, Tarek's skin developing patches of luminescent purple, Lyra's telepathy expanding to access human emotional depths. Their bodies moved together in perfect harmony, her slender fingers intertwined with his, two beings becoming something new with each passionate embrace. Afterward, as they lay together on a bed of thermal blankets, Tarek traced the contours of Lyra's face. "If we complete this transformation, what happens to who we were?" "We don't cease to exist," she replied, her mental voice resonating more clearly than ever in his mind. "We become more, the sum greater than its parts." Tarek was about to respond when he felt it, a cold telepathic probe searching the complex. Lyra stiffened beside him, her eyes wide. "The Arbiters are here," she whispered. "Three minds moving as one." Tarek pulled her close. "Let them come." "I won't let them take you." But Lyra's expression had changed, shifting from fear to determination as she gazed at the crystalline dome above them. "Perhaps," she said slowly, "they're exactly where they need to be." Beyond the stars divide. They stood at the center of the crystal chamber, hands clasped, as the three arbiters entered. The hunters moved with eerie synchronicity, tall, imposing figures with deep violet skin and silver tendrils that writhed like serpents. Unlike Lyra's expressive features, their faces remained impassive, eyes solid black without pupil or iris. Lyra Nix, spoke the lead arbiter, the words bypassing sound to resonate directly in their minds. You have violated the primary law of separation. You will return for purification. Tarek stepped forward, the purple patches on his skin glowing faintly in the crystal light. She stays with me. The arbiter's attention shifted to him, their collective consciousness pressing against his mind like a cold blade. The human shows signs of transformation. This confirms the severity of the transgression. It's not a transgression, Lyra countered, her golden-streaked tendrils moving with newfound purpose. It's our natural state, what both our species have denied for millennia. Before the arbiters could respond, Lyra squeezed Tarek's hand and closed her eyes. The crystals surrounding them pulsed with sudden intensity, and Tarek understood her intention through their bond. Together they projected their shared consciousness, not as a defense, but as an invitation. The lead arbiter faltered, black eyes widening as the merged emotional frequency of Tarek and Lyra washed over them. This is forbidden, it said, but with less conviction. See what we've discovered, Tarek urged, drawing on Lyra's telepathic abilities to project the truth they'd learned, how humans and Zephyri were once a single species, deliberately separated out of fear of their combined potential. The chamber hummed with energy as memory crystals activated fully, displaying ancient records that confirmed their revelation. Images formed in the air between them, beings neither fully human nor Zephyri, but harmonious combinations of both, creating civilizations of unprecedented achievement before the Great Sundering. The youngest arbiter approached, hesitant but curious. These records were purged from our archives. But not from these crystals, Lyra said. The truth has waited here all along. What followed was not the confrontation they had feared, but something more profound. As the crystal chamber's energies intensified, the boundaries between minds began to blur. The arbiters, trained to maintain telepathic purity, found themselves unable to resist the resonance pattern created by Tarek and Lyra's bond. The youngest arbiter was the first to change, patches of normal pigmentation appearing on his violet skin. The others followed, their rigid stance softening as the shared consciousness expanded to include them. Days later, as twin suns rose over Nereus 7, a message was transmitted to both the Zephyri conclave and the human outposts scattered across the sector. It spoke of reunion rather than division, of a path forward that embraced the complementary strengths of both species. Tarek stood at the edge of the canyon, his appearance now a harmonious blend of human and Zephyri traits. Beside him, Lyra watched the crimson mists with eyes that had gained the depth of human emotion while retaining their iridescent beauty. "Do you think they'll listen?" he asked, taking her hand in his. Lyra smiled, her tendrils, now a perfect balance of silver and gold, swaying gently in the morning breeze. "Some will resist. Change is never easy." And the others? "We'll find what we found," she replied, turning to face him fully. "That separation was never our natural state. Together we are what both our species were always meant to become." As they kissed, the boundary between their minds dissolved completely. Two beings who had once been strangers from different worlds now united in a bond that transcended the stars. Divide, pioneers of a new evolution that promised to heal ancient wounds and build bridges across the vast emptiness of space.